Listen closely, because a quiet force inside you rises tonight. A force many sense, yet few acknowledge. A force that begins with a simple realization. A call that refuses silence any longer. Some feel it as pressure in the chest, others as a spark behind the mind, a gentle pulse pushing them toward a higher version of themselves. This call is not granted by fate, nor by some distant cosmic selection. It begins within, stirred by a hidden strength ready to awaken. A long time ago, in the early halls of the Shaolin temple, monks spoke of rare individuals who carried a different flame. Not a flame of superiority, but a flame of responsibility. Those individuals moved through storms with clarity, through fear with steady steps, through uncertainty with calm eyes. Their secret was simple. They listened to the inner summons rising from deep awareness. Tonight's journey leads you into that ancient path. You will uncover lesser-known principles. How subtle tension in the body reveals unresolved energy. How stillness sharpens insight more than movement. How breath guides the mind into states that many never reach. You will hear stories linked to mind training rituals once shared only with students ready for true transformation. Stay until the final moment, because the deeper layers unfold slowly. Each minute draws you closer to understanding why your inner strength stirs now, and why this rising energy signals the beginning of a new chapter. By the end, you will see the prophecy not as myth, but as a living message written inside your own spirit. Welcome, my friends, to our space of wisdom and awakening, Shaolin Soulfire. Subscribe and step with me into the path of mastery. There is a moment in every seeker's life when the world grows quiet enough for an inner truth to rise. Not a voice, not a vision, but a recognition, a sense that something has always been waiting within you, like a sealed scroll written long before you were born. Many call this the prophecy, but the oldest Shaolin teachings reveal a different understanding. The prophecy is not an outside message trying to reach you. It is an inside truth trying to awaken. In the early days of the temple, young disciples often asked the masters why some people seemed destined for greater strength or deeper clarity. The masters always gave the same answer. No destiny chooses you, awareness chooses itself. They meant that the moment you become conscious of your potential, the moment you feel that stirring inside your chest, is the moment your path begins. Not through divine selection, but through self-realization. There is a saying in our tradition, the seed is planted in all, but only the awakened feel the weight of its blooming. The prophecy is that seed. It is the potential etched into your mind, your spirit, and your discipline. But potential stays dormant until you see it. Until you accept that you are capable of more than your past, more than your fears, more than the story others have written for you. Some monks discovered this truth during meditation, others during hardship. A few discovered it in silence so deep they could hear the rhythm of their own mind reshaping itself. Each awakening was different, yet the essence remained the same. The prophecy becomes real the moment you recognize your own power. Nothing external selects you. No cosmic hand reaches down to guide your steps. Your awareness is the one that calls your name, and you answer by stepping forward. There is a kind of strength that does not announce itself. It does not shake the ground, raise its voice, or demand recognition. It lives quietly beneath the surface, like a mountain rooted deep beneath the earth. Shaolin masters have always taught that this kind of strength is the only one that lasts. Everything loud eventually collapses. Everything aggressive eventually exhausts itself. But inner stability endures. In the temple, young students often arrived believing power was found in speed, force, or sharp techniques. The elders would watch patiently, letting the students burn through their energy. Only after the exhaustion came did the lesson begin. One master used to say, "A strong body can strike once, a strong mind can endure a lifetime." And this is where true inner strength reveals itself. It is built slowly, through discipline that does not seek attention, through breath that settles the nervous system, through posture that aligns the body with the mind, through presence that brings clarity to every movement, every thought, every choice. These practices seem simple, almost too simple, but simplicity is what makes them powerful. The quieter the method, the deeper it reaches. There's an old story about a monk who carried water up a steep hill every sunrise. When asked why he chose such a tiring task, he replied, "To learn stillness in motion, each step taught him to breathe calmly, each weight on his shoulders taught him balance, each morning built endurance without tension." In time, people noticed something unusual, not in his muscles but in his aura. Nothing could shake him, not fear, not anger, not uncertainty. This is the weight of inner strength, the calm that remains when everything else is turbulent. It is not force, it is not noise. It is quiet authority born from a disciplined spirit. There's a moment before every action where the world seems to hold its breath. In Shaolin practice, this moment is everything. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of complete awareness. It is the root from which all mastery grows. Without it, strength becomes unstable. Decisions become impulsive and the mind becomes a restless wanderer. With it, you move through life like a steady flame that wind cannot extinguish. In the old monastery, there was a teaching: before the body moves, the mind must stop. This did not mean freezing or becoming rigid. It meant quieting the turbulence inside long enough to see clearly. Many students struggled with this at first. They wanted to punch harder, move faster, prove themselves. The masters would simply guide them back to silence. They knew that a warrior who reacts from noise will always be defeated by their own inner storms. Stillness trains a different kind of strength, one that cannot be shaken. When fear rises, stillness keeps the breath steady. When doubt whispers, stillness keeps the mind centered. When the world becomes loud with opinions and expectations, stillness reminds you who you truly are beneath all the pressure. There is a story of a monk who meditated beside a waterfall for years. Disciples wondered how he could focus with such a roaring sound constantly around him. When they asked for his secret, he answered, "The sound outside cannot disturb me because the sound within has been quieted." This is the essence of inner stillness. The outside world loses its power when the inside world is no longer chaotic. A chosen one rises not through force but through calm clarity. To stand unmoved is not to resist life, it is to meet life with stability grounded in deep awareness. True mastery begins in the smallest details. Shaolin teachings speak of a practice few outsiders understand: microawareness. It is the art of noticing the subtle shifts inside the body, the fleeting emotions, the quiet impulses that rise and fall before they reach consciousness. These tiny currents carry the raw energy of action, and learning to perceive them is the first step in turning instinct into mastery. In the temple, monks were trained to observe their breath, the twitch of a finger or the flicker of a thought without judgment. At first it seems almost insignificant, a subtle tightening of the chest, a fleeting irritation, a spark of fear. But with attention, these small signals reveal patterns. They reveal where energy is trapped, where reaction has replaced intention. By noticing them, the monk transforms potential chaos into deliberate force. There is a story of a student who struggled with anger. He would lash out before realizing it. The master taught him to watch the first stirrings, the tiny heat in his hands, the rush in his chest, the tightening of his jaw. At first he thought it too subtle to matter, yet over months he began to respond differently. Each small pause, each micro-observation became a moment of choice. Gradually, anger lost its grip. Power replaced reaction. Micro-awareness is the bridge between unconscious habit and conscious control. It teaches that mastery is not about grand gestures but about the accumulation of tiny, precise adjustments. Every thought noticed, every impulse observed, every breath measured becomes a thread in the fabric of inner strength. The chosen one does not act blindly or impulsively. Every movement, every decision, every response carries intention. By cultivating micro-awareness, the mind becomes a calm river rather than a storm, and the energy within becomes a force both subtle and unstoppable. In the quiet halls of the temple, the breath is considered the most faithful teacher. It moves with the body, yet it is not the body. It flows with the mind, yet it is not the mind. Shaolin masters have long taught that returning to the breath is the simplest yet most profound path to clarity. It is the reset button of the chosen one, a way to dissolve illusion and anchor presence in every moment. The practice begins with noticing the exhale. As air leaves the body, tension softens. Thoughts that seemed urgent begin to fade. The mind, often clouded by expectation or regret, finds a quiet space. Each conscious release is a small act of surrender, letting go of what does not serve, releasing attachment to stories that bind the spirit. Then comes the inhale. It carries more than oxygen. It carries focus, clarity, and intention. With each drawing in, the body and mind align. Decisions that once seemed confusing become clear. Strength that felt scattered gathers at the center. The breath becomes a guide, showing the rhythm between surrender and renewal, between stillness and action. There is an ancient story of a monk who faced a violent storm while meditating atop a cliff. The winds tore at his robes, the rain stung his skin, and the ground shook beneath him, yet he remained unmoved. When asked how he endured such chaos, he simply said, "I returned to the breath, one exhale to let go, one inhale to stand." In that rhythm, he discovered that no external force could unseat the inner fortress. The discipline of returning to the breath is not just a practice, it is a way of living. In moments of fear, doubt, or distraction, the chosen one finds stability by drawing inward. The body relaxes, the mind sharpens, and the soul remembers its own strength. With each conscious breath, the path of mastery becomes clearer, and the power within grows steady and unshakable. The path of the chosen one is rarely straight. It is lined not with applause or easy victories, but with mirrors reflecting the parts of ourselves we often wish to ignore. Old pain, hidden patterns, mental resistance, emotional weight. These are the shadows that linger quietly, waiting for attention. Shaolin teachings remind us that true mastery is not built by avoidance, but by the courage to meet these inner truths head-on. In the early days of training, young disciples were taught to sit with discomfort, a slight ache in the body, a troubling memory, a restless thought. All were opportunities for observation, not escape. One master explained, "The battlefield is not outside, it is inside. Every fear avoided grows stronger. Every shadow denied becomes heavier. To confront oneself is to see clearly where energy is trapped and to release it with intention." There is a story of a monk who carried grief from a lost family member for years. It lingered quietly beneath his discipline, surfacing in irritation, hesitation, and self-doubt. When he finally allowed himself to face it fully during meditation, naming each feeling without judgment, he felt the weight shift. The grief did not disappear, but he no longer carried it unconsciously. The energy transformed into awareness, strength, and compassion. The chosen one walks this path daily. Confrontation is not dramatic. It is subtle, consistent, and honest. Each fear faced becomes a step toward freedom. Each hidden habit recognized becomes a tool for control. Each unresolved emotion observed becomes a source of insight. This internal confrontation is the forge in which the mind and spirit are tempered. Avoiding it leaves one reactive and unsteady. Embracing it builds resilience, clarity, and mastery. Only by standing before oneself, fully present and unflinching, does the chosen one transform hidden chaos into deliberate power and potential into realized strength. True power is quiet. It is not born in sudden flashes of brilliance or bursts of energy that fade with excitement. Shaolin masters have always emphasized that transformation comes through consistency, through repetition that feels ordinary but is in truth extraordinary. Each day becomes a building block, each small practice a thread woven into the fabric of mastery. In the temple, students often struggled with monotony. They wanted to feel progress immediately, to see their efforts reflected in applause or achievement. The elders would smile and remind them, "The river carves the stone not in a day, but drop by drop." So too is the mind shaped by repeated attention. Stillness practiced at dawn, focused movements repeated countless times, conscious breath observed hour after hour. these small acts accumulate into unshakable strength. There is a story of a monk who trained quietly in the courtyard for years, performing the same movements, reciting the same chants, meditating in the same spot. Outsiders could not see change, but inside transformation was unfolding. The body grew steady, the mind grew sharp, the spirit grew calm. When tested, he moved with a force and clarity that seemed sudden to those who did not witness the years of quiet discipline. Consistency turns ordinary routines into extraordinary power. Each day becomes an opportunity to practice focus, to return to stillness, to act with intention. It is in the repetition that subtle mastery emerges, unnoticed yet undeniable. The chosen one learns that discipline is not punishment, it is a doorway. Each repeated practice is a signal to the mind and body that they are capable of more, that endurance creates strength, and that patience shapes destiny. Over time, the cumulative effect of daily effort becomes unstoppable. The ordinary becomes sacred, and the mundane becomes the foundation for a force no challenge can shake. There is a quiet wisdom in restraint. Shaolin masters have long taught that the strongest do not seek conflict, and true mastery is measured not by domination but by control. Force is easy, direction is rare. The chosen one learns to move energy with precision, to act only when necessary, and to conserve power for moments that truly demand it. In the monastery, students often rushed into action, believing that visible effort equaled strength. One elder watched silently as a young monk struck repeatedly at a training target. After a moment, he interrupted. Power that moves without purpose is wasted. The tree bends in the wind, but it does not break. Learn to bend your energy before you strike. In that moment, the student realized that control, not aggression, defines lasting strength. The lesson of non-force is practiced in every movement, every thought, every decision. A single breath can redirect agitation. A single pause can prevent a misstep. Energy spent recklessly is gone forever, but energy directed with intention amplifies itself. The chosen one understands that restraint is not weakness, it is intelligence. It is the awareness that most battles are won before they begin, by aligning mind, body, and spirit. There is a story of a master who faced a violent intruder in the temple. Instead of meeting force with force, he shifted subtly, using minimal movement to redirect the energy of the attack. The confrontation ended without harm. Those who witnessed it spoke in awe, but the master only nodded, saying, "Strength without waste is strength without loss." The Shaolin lesson of non-force teaches that true power is quiet, deliberate, and conscious. It is the ability to respond, not react, to guide, not dominate, to conserve energy while still achieving mastery. For the chosen one, control becomes the measure of power, and every action flows from the calm authority of a mind that moves with precision rather than impulse. The moment of awakening is not marked by thunder or spectacle. It arrives quietly when the chosen one begins to embody the principles that have long been whispered through ancient teachings. Awareness, discipline, alignment, inner peace, and conscious action are no longer ideals to strive for. They become the very rhythm of life. In this state, the prophecy stops being something distant or mystical. It becomes tangible, lived, and self-created. In the old Shaolin halls, masters often told the story of a monk who spent years in rigorous practice. At first, his focus was scattered, his movements uneven, and his mind restless. Yet he persisted, returning each day to meditation, to stillness, to repetition. Slowly, a transformation took root. Awareness sharpened, discipline hardened into gentle consistency, actions flowed in harmony with purpose. Where once chaos stirred, inner peace now settled. By the time he faced the world beyond the temple walls, his presence alone carried weight, clarity, and quiet authority. Rising into the role of the chosen one is similar. It is a process of integration, where every habit, every thought, every breath aligns with intention. Awareness allows the mind to perceive without distraction. Discipline trains the body and spirit to act with precision. Alignment creates harmony between inner truth and outward expression. Inner peace steadies the heart in turbulence. conscious action ensures that every step is deliberate, not reactive. At this point, destiny is no longer handed down or foretold by stars. It is sculpted moment by moment, choice by choice, action by action. The chosen one becomes both artist and canvas, shaping reality through mastery of self. The path is quiet yet profound. Power becomes natural, presence undeniable, and life a reflection of the inner order cultivated through years of attention, patience, and unwavering dedication. In this way, the prophecy lives, not in words or visions, but in the embodiment of one who has fully risen into their role. The strongest chosen one is not a distant legend or a figure from stories. It is anyone who turns inward, mastering their thoughts, emotions, and actions. Through stillness, mindful breath, careful awareness, and the courage to face oneself, the inner prophecy begins to unfold. Strength no longer shouts, it moves quietly. Power is no longer chaotic, it flows with control. And destiny, once uncertain, becomes a conscious choice, crafted by your own hands. Each day offers an opportunity to practice this mastery. Pause, breathe, notice the small impulses within. Face your fears with honesty. Act with intention rather than reaction. Over time, these simple steps build a force that cannot be shaken. The path of the chosen one is walked in silence, in patience, and in steady, mindful transformation. Carry this lesson into your life. Let each moment be a chance to awaken a deeper awareness, a clearer focus, and a more grounded presence. The prophecy is alive in you, waiting for your conscious action to bring it fully into being. Thank you for joining this journey today. May peace guide your steps, clarity sharpen your mind, and quiet strength fill your spirit. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to our channel Shaolin Soulfire and continue walking the path of mastery with us.